Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking one of the absolutely most fascinating financial and strategic stories of our time. We're talking about Elon Musk's colossal bet on Tesla. Now, when you look at his 20% stake in the company, it's so incredibly tempting to just view it through the lens of a standard, albeit massive, stock portfolio. But as we're about to see, this isn't your typical investment at all. It's actually a highly calculated mechanism for absolute strategic control, and a really high-stakes, all-in bet on the future of human civilization. We're going to decode the strategy, the vision, and the astronomical financial bets that make up the Musk Manifesto. Let's get right into it. So here's our roadmap for the explainer today. First, the ultimate all-in bet. Second, why control matters most. Third, the AI and robotics pivot. Fourth, the trillion-dollar math. Fifth, high stakes and massive risks. And finally, number 6, lessons for everyday investors. All right, part 1, the ultimate all-in bet, defying normal investing logic. Standard investing preaches diversification, right? I mean, if you open literally any personal finance book, the very first rule you'll read is to spread your risk. But Elon Musk, he operates on a totally contrarian thesis. He concentrates his wealth to an extreme degree. Just track how this conviction has compounded over 2 decades. Back in 2004, he led Tesla's Series A funding with $6.5 million. But 2008 is where that all-in mentality truly showed itself. Right during the height of the financial crisis, he poured the absolute last of his PayPal fortune into the company just to save it from bankruptcy. He famously had to borrow money from friends just to pay his own rent. Fast forward to 2018, he secured a heavily scrutinized compensation package tied to these insane performance metrics. And by 2026, after exercising those awards, he commands a roughly 20% stake in Tesla worth well over $100 billion. The man repeatedly risked total personal financial ruin to get to this exact point. Moving on to part 2, why control matters most. Let's peel back the first layer. So we've established the sheer mind-boggling scale of the wealth involved here. But you really have to wonder, why would a billionaire tie up his entire net worth, exposing himself to massive financial vulnerability just to secure voting power over a corporate board? If the goal was simply preserving his wealth, there are much safer ways to do it. Well, the answer lies in what that voting power actually protects him from. Notice the key distinction Musk makes here. He's explicitly stated he wants roughly 25% voting power. For him, control acts as an impenetrable shield against Wall Street. Think about it. Traditional markets are obsessed with short-term, quarterly profits. Activist investors are always hunting for ways to maximize immediate returns, which usually comes at the expense of long-term research and development. But Musk thinks in decades. He wants to enact civilization-level changes, and he knows for sure that without a massive voting bloc, he could easily be outvoted or even fired by a board that just doesn't have his tolerance for long-term risk. Which brings us to part 3, the AI and robotics pivot, the real goal. So what exactly is he using all this control to build? Well, it's a radical pivot from being a traditional automaker to becoming an AI and robotics empire. The projected market sizes for these technologies are just staggering. Full self-driving technology? That's a $1 trillion market, where Tesla is a leader with over 1 million vehicles out there collecting data every single day. Then you have the Dojo AI supercomputer, which is a $500 billion space. But the one that really blows your mind? Humanoid robots. That is projected to be a $10 trillion industry. 10 trillion. Just try to wrap your head around that scale. These are massive, highly experimental leaps. But these categories are the real goal, and they are what fundamentally justify his ultimate vision for the whole company. Just listen to his specific conviction regarding Optimus, the humanoid robot they're designing to do everything from heavy factory labor to everyday household chores. He literally calls it the biggest product ever of any kind. By actively shifting engineering resources away from cheaper car models to focus on autonomous robots, Musk is sending a loud and clear signal. This AI vision isn't just a side project. It is actively transforming Tesla's core business model right from the ground up. Okay, part 4. The trillion-dollar math, the sheer scale of the bet. Building the biggest product ever requires an unbelievable amount of capital. And the math behind this vision, it completely defies traditional automotive logic. When you look at legacy automakers, they typically trade at about 5 to 10 times their earnings. Tesla, on the other hand, trades at an astronomical 370 times earnings. This jaw-dropping premium has absolutely nothing to do with how many cars they sell today. It is driven entirely by the market's expectation of that AI future we just talked about, and an underlying belief in Musk's ability to actually execute it. The market is pricing Tesla as a tech giant, not a car factory. Now, to turn that premium into a reality, you need cash, specifically $25 billion. To put that into perspective, that is roughly the entire GDP of a small country. And that's the unprecedented capital spending Tesla has planned for 2026 alone. This is a massive cash burn dedicated to funding unproven technologies like the Cybercab robo-taxi network, scaling up Optimus manufacturing, and expanding those Dojo supercomputers. It is a staggering amount of money to spend on products that just don't have a proven commercial footprint yet. Which brings us right back to his core philosophy. I don't believe in diversification. Musk concentrates his bets heavily on what he believes in. But by tying his massive personal fortune to a company burning $25 billion on futuristic tech, he is really setting himself up for an existential crisis. If these bets fail, that 370 times earnings multiple completely collapses, and he stands to lose almost everything. That perfectly sets up Part 5, high stakes and massive risks, staring into the abyss. When a CEO bets their entire net worth on a decade-long time horizon, they are quite literally staring into the abyss. Let's rapid fire through these threats, because trust me, they are coming from all sides. First, execution. Full autonomy has been promised for next year since 2016. Financially, they're burning $25 billion while global EV demand is actually softening. Competitively, Chinese automakers like BYD are flooding the market. Waymo is already out there deploying robotaxis, and OpenAI is advancing relentlessly. Add in a total maze of regulatory hurdles for autonomous driving, plus the vulnerability of Musk's highly controversial public brand being inextricably tied to the company, and you have a total powder keg of risk. Finally, Part 6. Lessons for everyday investors. Applying the contrarian thesis. With all of that strategic risk laid out on the table, how do we actually distill this down? Let's apply this contrarian thesis to pull out some actionable takeaways. If you compare Musk directly to a traditional investor, it's night and day. The traditional investor spreads their risk, wants returns in 1 to 5 years, keeps their risk tolerance moderate, and is motivated primarily by financial gains. Musk? He concentrates absolutely everything, operates on a timeline of decades, aimed at civilization-level impact, and completely embraces extreme risk. It's a total inversion of standard financial advice. Now, even if you don't have billions of dollars, you can still use this framework to assess your own high-conviction bets. Step 1, truly know what you own. If you buy Tesla, you have to understand you are buying an AI robotics company, not just a car maker. Step 2, look for aligned incentives. Find situations where leadership has just as much to lose as you do. Step 3, if you're making a vision-based bet, you absolutely must maintain a long-term view and just ignore that short-term volatility. And Step 4, deeply understand your own personal risk tolerance before you ever decide to ditch diversification for concentration. To wrap things up, I want to leave you with this incredibly provocative final thought from Elon Musk himself. He doesn't just think his company will succeed, he firmly believes it will be the most valuable company in the world by a wide margin. It's honestly a testament to the sheer scale of his ambition. We've gone through the history, the trillion-dollar math, and the massive existential risks standing in his way. The only question left to answer is whether the greatest all-in bet in modern financial history will actually pay off. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.